This is where intimacy becomes the embodiment of divine love. Hello, sacred souls. I am Mademoiselle Sugar, and I want to welcome you to the truth about intimacy. If you're here because you're seeking healthier relationships, deeper understanding of yourself, or simply a new perspective on human connection, then you have definitely come to the right place, and I am thankful for your presence. Now, before we begin, I do want to leave you with one thought that will guide you through this entire series. Intensity is not intimacy. Obsession is not intimacy. See, because passion can feel so overwhelming, chemistry can feel so magnetic, but obsession can feel consuming. Intensity makes your heart race, gives you an anxiety, but none of those experiences, especially by themselves, create genuine intimacy. True intimacy is cultivated. It is intentional. It is built through safety, trust, authenticity, presence, and the willingness to truly know and to be known. This is a question I love for you guys to think about yourselves. When was the first time you remember feeling truly seen by another person? And I mean they see all of you, sometimes without you even telling them a word. Now I want you to hold on to that memory, because by the end of me speaking, I think you'll understand why it matters so much more than you ever realized. Together, you and I, we are going to explore intimacy far beyond romance and sex. We'll discover how intimacy begins before our first memories, shapes every relationship throughout our lives, and ultimately becomes one of the greatest passions of divine love we can embody. So, to every sacred soul, I want you to begin this journey with me together. Now, when you think about the word intimacy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it sex? Is it romance? Is it physical touch? Now, if you've thought of one of those things, I want you to understand. Don't feel bad. But that's exactly why so many people struggle in relationships. Intimacy begins long before attraction, before dating, before language, before memory, and even before you're born. Sex alone, mm-mm. Attraction alone, mm-mm. Chemistry alone, marriage alone, intensity, obsession, mm-mm. None of those things are intimacy. You see, the definition of intimacy is the experience of being deeply known, emotionally safe, and authentically connected to yourself and with others. The womb, that's where it starts. Your mother, when she would rub her belly and sing to you, read to you, play music for you, talk to you, that's intimacy. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I did that every day. And still to this day, she and I are very, very close. Then there was infancy. Do you remember being picked up as a child? When a parent is holding their child, teaching their child, loving them, guiding them, kissing them, hugging them, giving them words of affirmation. You can do it. All those things. Those are additional forms of intimacy. And then there's your childhood. Parents would often continue those words of affirmation, teaching you more advanced things, such as making your bed and discussions about the hard things in life, especially, puberty, questions about the world. Parents may begin to reveal parts of their own childhood or their own memories when they were a kid, their music, things like that. That's a form of intimacy. Now, if you're a parent, I want you to think about the times when you've heard a song play on the radio, an old song they used to play, and the kid is looking at you like, what? And you would say something like, what do you know about that? Especially if they're playing it by themselves. You can go on and you can rant about how it felt so good to you and your friends listening to that song, those things you did. You're expressing to that child the moments of intimacy you had while simultaneously developing intimacy with your child. Then there are teachers. Do you remember your first teacher? I do. My first teacher was Mr. Brownstein. He was the proudest Jewish man I'd ever known in my life. I was about 5 or 6 years old. And the best teacher I ever had. And he would talk to me all the time. And he would always encourage me. I was almost the teacher's pet. But that's because he saw something in me and he helped me develop it. He helped me to learn and encouraged my curiosity, which is something that I still have to this day. Do you ever have a teacher that did that for you? One of those good, it could even be a gym teacher. Do you remember those teachers? And you have your friends that you've developed throughout life. This can start in daycare for some who, went. Your cousins, they're not only just second siblings, they can also be friends. You can also find a kinship of friends, that friend-like dynamic with them. Think about all the times you had those play dates, if you did, or, you just hung out at the mall, especially if you're a millennial or, a zillennial like myself and Gen X. Think about all those times going to Radio Shack for some of us, listening to music. You were having intimate times with your friends. Nowadays, intimacy seems to be built more so online with children. They can have friends all over the world. But then there was your first crush. Do you remember your first crush? I remember mine. His name was Willie. He was a guy from the South, the first Southern boy I really liked. He didn't like me back though. But your first crush, we would make these want to be memories. Our imaginations will go wild when you have your first crush, thinking about kissing them and telling them how much you like them, not even knowing them, especially them not even knowing that you have a crush on them. You start to develop a or almost delusional intimacy with them. But that's because you don't know better. And it's natural and it happens, right? And then there's adulthood. You still have those crushes. You still have teachers for some. You still have those childhood memories, even childhood friends for some, those cousins, that the talks that you'd had with your parents. This is an example emphasizing that intimacy develops throughout life long before romance. Did you guys know that there are 4 types of intimacy? Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Physical touch, we all know what that is. But it's more than what the first thought comes to your head. It's safety, it's comfort, it's affection and connection through your physical presence, not just sex, it's your physical presence. So there's examples such as hugging your grandmother, holding a child's hand, comforting a grieving friend, embracing a loved one, and holding hands. That's where you start to understand that physical intimacy is about presence before pleasure. Then there's mental. This is where you share your ideas together, your dreams, your curiosity, and respectful disagreements. And some of those examples are late night conversations, brainstorming a business, discussing books, sharing goals, all types of things. Going down those rabbit holes, that's my favorite type of mental activity. I love to go down a good rabbit hole and just see where a person's mind is at. This is when you should understand that mental intimacy says, I value the way you think. Your thoughts mean something to me, and I enjoy sharing them and mind with you. Then there's emotional. This is where you start to safely express feelings without fear or shame or abandonment. Examples like crying, admitting your fears, apologizing, asking for help, accountability, celebrating another's success. This is where emotional intimacy, this starts to help you build your authenticity of self. Now, there's spiritual. This is where you share meanings of life, your purpose, your values, your faith, or simply just wonder, your curiosity. This can include praying, meditating, serving others, watching a sunrise together, discussing each other's life's purpose. Spiritual intimacy asks, what gives your life meaning? For some like me, it is, who is God to you? What do you think about aliens? Things like that. What do you think about ancestors? You know, there are 5 C's of intimacy. You have closeness. This is allowing someone to enter your inner world. An example would be, this is a person that you will call, the first person that you will call with good news or bad news. Sometimes this person can be a person that we list as an emergency contact because they just know so much about you, they're dependable. Then we have communication. speaking honestly and listening to understand. A healthy example would be, I don't feel heard. Can we please talk about it? This is where you learn each other's communication styles. Some people communicate better after they've cooled off. Some people are a little bit more confrontational, like myself. I'm one of those, let's get it out, get it over with, get the heaviness, get the tension out, so therefore we can move forward. And there's compassion. This is where you choose empathy before judgment, understanding things about this person, asking what happened today before reacting to their actions. Because there may have been something happen, to them that you don't know about. Judgment is where you lose the parts of the intimacy. It shows a person that, you're not safe. So compassion is something we often forget when it comes to intimacy, especially if you're already close to that person, or you've been close to that person for a long time, for a while, and it's like over time you get comfortable. And while you think you may be being blunt and giving them the truth, sometimes you just have to listen, have compassion for them first. Then there's commitment. See, commitment is an example is consistently showing up in relationships of any type. An example would be calling your parents every Sunday, especially if they're elderly, because you promised. Making sure your girlfriend got in the house after a date safely. One of those. Let me know when you get home. That's a piece of commitment. That is a piece of intimacy. That is someone wanting to know that you're safe. Then there's conflict resolution. There's so many examples of conflict resolution. I love a good conflict resolution because this is a chance to see many different things about a person, in addition to giving you a chance to repair instead of avoiding. This could be returning after an argument to rebuild trust with accountability, apologizing. I'm sorry, that's my part. I take accountability for my part, what I did. And I want you to know that. That is also showing a person how committed to them you are, how close you are. Now, this is my favorite, devotion. Devotion is very rarely discussed because it is so often mistaken for submission or reversed only, you know. I'm sorry if you guys hear a little noise, my cat playing with his toy. Or reserved only for one's relationship with God, Source, or the All, whoever you believe in, the universe. But in this series, I want you to understand that devotion is the intentional investment of your time, your energy, your attention, your presence, and care towards someone or something meaningful. Did you know something that you really love to do, a good hobby? That's devotion. That's a piece of intimacy. Every healthy relationship, including the one with yourself, requires true devotion. Examples are, imagine two friends. One only calls when they need something, the other checks in consistently celebrates your victories, remembers your birthday, encourages your dreams, and shows up during difficult seasons. While both may care, there's only one that is practicing devotion. And that is where your discernment comes in. See, because devotion is chosen, it nourishes. Obsession consumes. If intimacy has been developing in your life, why will we expect it to suddenly appear only when we're dating someone? The quality of your romantic intimacy is often built on thousands of moments that happen long before that first kiss. That's something I want you guys to understand. I've had noticed something during my readings with clients. There's a big lack, there's a big gap of intimacy not being either reciprocated or not given at all. People just intentionally, avoiding. And in a world where everyone is, I'll detach, I'll detach, I'll detach, I'll leave before they hurt me. It's really sad, because this is where we begin to lose human connection. This is why so many people walk around and they're angry, they're sad, and they're depressed. The loneliness epidemic is pretty high for a lot of people. They just don't talk about it. There's so many people that we walk past every day that lack intimacy. There's also people, in our families who lack intimacy. We may not even notice it. You have a choice when it comes to intimacy. And of course, being discerning is very important. You don't just want to give away the beautiful parts of your intimacy to anybody. I think of intimacy how it starts with a mother and her child. That is devotion as well. Whether you like them or not, Farrakhan says, your mother is your first God. And it's the truth. For some, you have suckled from her breast. You have slept in the same bed with her. She has wiped your behind. She has taught you how to ride a bike. She'd given you snacks when you didn't deserve it, or reprimanded you when you needed. But I'm not saying that intimacy is something everyone experiences. That's why I come in at. I want to help you. I want to help many of you to discover what intimacy really, really is, and how precious it is. How precious it is as a soul, a sacred soul on top of that, to build real, true intimacy. We don't want to become a part of the problem. We want to be those people who are different. I want to leave you all with a sacred blessing, okay? I hope that you leave here feeling deeply seen, deeply known, and deeply loved. I pray that you stick along with me through this series, and your heart grows in wisdom, your relationships flourish in truth, and your spirit remains anchored in peace. May you embody divine love in every connection you create, beginning with the one you have with yourself. And until we meet again, sacred souls, I want you to be so blessed. All right? I shall talk to you guys soon. Good morning, good evening, or good night, sacred soul.